Hey, Irina.
Hi, teacher. Good evening.
Good evening. All right. So, since this is our first session, let me explain a bit of, how it's going to work. So basically, these speaking sessions that we will be having are just like an extra thing, like an additional thing for our, to our usual group classes. And what we will be doing during this speaking session is basically just go over the 4 tasks that we have in this speaking section. So this is just something extra so that you can practice on your own maybe, and I can give you some feedback. But of course, we will be seeing this in a more in-depth way in the group classes that we have. Okay. So today we're going to start with question 1, the first task for the speaking section, which is this one. So in this task, what they will do is pretty much give you a question, something like this. Now, the question will always be about, we'll always try to make you choose something like, do you prefer running or walking? Or maybe, do you agree or disagree with the statement that running is better than walking? Or some people prefer running while others prefer walking. Which one do you prefer? So it's always about having options and choosing one, and then explaining, of course, why you have chose that one. So let's look at this question. Do you prefer finding information by reading books or searching the internet? Use details and examples to support your explanation. So we always got 2 options, sometimes more, reading books or searching the internet. And basically what you have to do is choose one of those 2, like reading books, try to make it as strong as possible. So try not to tell me something like, well, I think that reading books is good, but the internet has also its advantages. So I'm not sure, I prefer this one, except when this is the case. So try to make it always, try to have a strong mind about it. And then you gotta support your choice. You gotta tell me why. So I prefer the internet because it's faster, because you have more information, because it's easier, or because it's more accessible. Whatever you wanna say, you gotta give me at least one argument, and we'll also see that you need also one example as well, details and examples. Then after you read the question, you will be given 15 seconds to prepare your response, which is kind of nothing. So you can just think about it for a while, organize your thoughts, reread the question, and then you will be given 45 seconds to speak and to deliver your response. So you gotta answer this question in 45 seconds, which is also not a lot. Okay, so is that okay so far?
Yes.
All right. Now, what you need to do, kind of, sorry?
No, sorry. I'm a little nervous.
That's okay, no worries. That's exactly why we have this, so that you can be on your own here. So what you need to do in your response is, first of all, you need a short introduction in which you're going to be telling me what your response is, what your position is. So I definitely believe that using the internet is way better to find information, or that finding information is better when you use the internet. So you just tell me what you think, what your response is. Try to make it as quick as possible and as direct as possible as well. Try not to hesitate so much there. And then you need to tell me one reason. So you can use a word like since, or due to the fact that, or for, in order to avoid that because it's kind of common. So you say since, and then you tell me an argument like since it's, I don't know, you have access to more information. And then try to give me an example. This is really important. So you can pretty much say anything you want. It could be a personal example, something like, when I was in college, I was in this technology class, and in books, I didn't have really access to many updated information. So I had to use the internet, and it worked for me. And ever since, I prefer to use the internet to find, I don't know, anything I need, or when I'm doing some research. It could be a general one as well. If you don't want to tell me about you, you can say something like, if you're researching on technology, then perhaps the internet will be a better option since you have access to more updated information, given that books are, are probably, like, are not updated that often, or something like that. So that's it. And the conclusion is not necessary. If you have extra time and if you want to do it, you can do it. But it's not important that you do, only if you have extra time, you can say something like, so that's why I think so, or so that's why I believe that. the internet is easier or is better to use, whatever. So that's it. You know, you only got 45 seconds, so you gotta hurry up a bit.
Okay.
So is this okay?
Um,
Any questions?
No. No, teacher,
Okay.
I think.
So actually, we're gonna be looking at this week, so it will clear things up when we see this. But right now, you're gonna give it a shot. So this is the question for you. It goes: some people think they can achieve more when they work with other people, and others think they are more productive when they work alone. So what's your opinion, and explain why? So you know what to do here. Choose one, think of one reason, and try to give one example. So now you get 15 seconds to prepare your response. So you can start preparing now.
Teacher, for this question, not for the other?
Yeah. No, this one.
Okay.
Okay, so 15 seconds.
Okay.
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 So I'm gonna put the timer on. Hang on a sec, please. All right. So please, if you're ready, you can start speaking now.
Okay. I think that it's better when we work with other people, I mean in group, since we can collect a lot of information for our partners, and at the end we can make a better work. And to illustrate, if we are in college, I don't know, maybe a group of 5 people can know some things. I don't know, teacher, sorry.
Okay, but I think that was a great try. That was a good, strong start. So great. I noticed that you got the argument. It was perfect. You can collect information from your group mates, and you can do a better job. Now the example, though, I think that's when you get stuck.
Yes.
So it doesn't have to be so out of, so complicated. Basically, the example is just making things a bit more, specific, but it's repeating the same thing that you said in your argument. So if you're saying that you can collect more information and do a better job, then you can just get a bit more specific. So you're saying if you are working in, I think you said politics, not sure. So if you're working in a company, or if you're creating a product, so just try to think of some job that some people are doing, and then repeat the same thing. So you could say, you can collect information from everyone. So you can have different people from different areas or specialize in different things. And at the end of the day, you will do a better job. So you're just repeating, but you're getting a bit more specific, So,
maybe I can say that if we are working in a group, we can collect information a little more faster than working alone. Like
sure.
Example.
Of course, yeah. So that will be your argument. You can do it faster. And then you tell me how, or, you give a more specific example of how that would work. You could also try to give a personal one. You could try to say something like, when I was working in this company, I don't know, I was doing this research on, and try to, make up a topic. I was doing this research on food and people preferences. And we were able to do it in a more, quick way by doing it in group teams than we would have done it if we were alone, or if we were working alone. So
okay.
it doesn't have to be out of, it's just, you repeat a bit more, and you can try to tell me a personal story. I think you can really do that. So that you can also use different tenses,
Okay.
use more grammar. So, okay. One tip at the beginning, try not to say I think that, because it's very common. So try to say something different. So I consider, I believe, or if I were to choose between working alone, or when it comes to working, I prefer to work with other people. So try to make it a bit different. And try to also use some transitions. So when you're transitioning to the example, make sure that you say something like to illustrate, or for instance, for example, something like that, to make sure that you're emphasizing that you're going to give an example. Actually, the e-rater is going to be looking for these phrases here. So try to use them as much as you can. All right, let's go for another one. This one, the same. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Online learning is more effective than traditional classroom learning. Be sure to use details during your response. So is online learning better than traditional classroom learning? Or which one do you prefer, Chrissy? 15 seconds now. Okay.
Okay.
So you can start now.
Okay. I definitely believe that traditional what was the word, teacher? Sorry, traditional classroom.
Traditional classroom learning.
Okay, I definitely believe that traditional.
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay, I definitely believe that traditional classroom learning is better than online learning, since when we are in the classroom, our attention can focus in the professor and what he's saying or she. But when we are in online class, we can like get distracted with other things. And to illustrate, and this last semester that I have, I was in a class, and then like my cat was walking around me, and I just don't understand that anything that my professor said at the end. So that's why.
Okay, awesome. So this time you didn't get stuck. That's great. Your example was good. You had your transitions. Perfect. Okay, so what I could say, some tips. So for the example, in order to work on grammar a bit, careful with the tenses. So for instance, you were telling me about this past semester that you had, and your dad was working and everything, but you were also kind of mixing the tenses with the simple present. So you were saying, so I don't understand, instead of I didn't, or I wasn't able to understand. So what you could do is try to, even if you have personal examples, which is an awesome idea, try to make them in the simple present. So instead of saying this past semester, you can tell me right now I'm doing a semester online, and my dad is always working around me, so I'm not able to concentrate, and I get lost, and you don't have to use different tenses,
Okay. Yes.
For the pronouns, I know it's kind of confusing to use, he or she when you're talking about professor, for instance, and then you're saying what he's saying or she. So try to always make it plural. So you cannot pay attention to professors or what they are saying or themselves. So always try to make it plural so that you don't get confused. And yeah, that's it. So I think that's pretty much it.
Okay.
You're really good.
Thank you, teacher.
Okay, so since no one's joining, let's do one more. Okay, so this one is, do you prefer to study at home or in a library? Provide specific details to support your explanation. Now 15 seconds. Okay, so please start speaking now.
I believe that it's better to study in the library than since when we are in the library, all around us is quiet, and when we are studying in home, sometimes we get distracted very easy. So that's why I think that is better in the library. And for example, today I was studying home, but it was difficult. It was really difficult for me to concentrate in the things that I was reading. And I think that it will be better if I were in the library. Yes.
Okay. So yes, good grammar there. It would be better if I were in the library. Good. So I like that. That's the structure that you use. Okay. So great. You got the example, the argument. The only thing is that you went over a bit of time. So you were missing some time. Don't forget to look at the clock. When you're starting to provide the example, make sure that you look at the clock and then you kind of, calculate how much time you have to give the example. And based on that, you give it.
Okay.
So don't forget to do that. At the beginning, one tip, when you say, I think it's better to, emphasize a bit on the it's, or the it is, so that it doesn't get, they don't think it's just like is better to, because that will count as a grammar mistake.
Okay.
Okay, so in order also, try not to restate your argument or your position at the middle of the response.
Yes.
So you kind of, you gave your argument and here you said, so that's why I think it's better to do this. So leave that till the end. Don't tell me in the middle of it. After your example, you can do that if you have extra time. And remember, okay, what are these called? I think these are adverbs, if I'm not wrong. So I think, for instance, when you say, I think I can concentrate, or I cannot concentrate very easily, right? Instead of very easy. So you know that grammar lesson, so make sure to check it out. I think it's adverbs, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's adverbs, right? Because easy is an adjective.
Mm-hmm.
Another will be easily.
Yes, it's easily. Yes.
So
yes.
practice that. And those are just tiny details that I wouldn't think would hurt your score that much. So I think you can actually get a pretty good score in this task. So I'm glad. Okay, Irina.
Okay, thank you, teacher. Mm.
Any questions?
No, teacher. Maybe. How many questions will be in the exam?
In the test, you will only have one of these questions. So
just one.
Yeah, this is one task. So in total, you have 4 tasks in the speaking section, and this is the first one, but you will only have one question. Then you get the question 2, question 3, and question 4, but those are different ones. They're not like this.
Okay, but just 4 in total.
4 total, yeah, but you will have different ones. So this one of this kind, and the other ones will be different.
Okay. Okay. So just that. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll see you tomorrow in class.
Yes. Thank you, teacher. Have a good night.
Bye. Bye. Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Hi there, Yeleni. Hi, Yeleni. Can you hear me?
Hola, buenas noches. Perdón, recién entré, no escuché.
Hi, that's okay, no worries. Okay, so, all right, so since this is our first session, what we're gonna be doing during these sessions is basically go over the speaking section. So we're gonna be practicing all the tasks that we have in the speaking section, starting today with question 1, all right?
All right.
Okay, so today we'll start with this question 1. Now in this question, what they will do is basically give you a question, something like this. Now the question is always the same, it comes in the same format, you could say. So it's always about choosing something. So they basically give you a bunch of options, like, do you prefer running or walking? Or do you think that running is better than walking? Or do you agree or disagree with this statement? Running is better than walking. Or some people prefer running, others prefer walking. Which one do you prefer? So no matter what type of question you get, you will always have to do the same thing, which is choose one. So I prefer this, running, or I think this is better, or I agree with this statement, and then you gotta explain why. So you gotta tell me because, and make have something like, because you spend less time when you run. And try to also give an example. So you can say something like, for instance, every day in the morning I go to run and I spend 15 minutes, whereas when I was walking, I used to spend like 45 minutes. So that's pretty much it. Now, after you read the question, you will be given 15 seconds to prepare your response, which is, to be honest, kind of nothing. So you just can maybe reread the question, think about it, try to think of the argument, the reason that you're going to give, probably the example, and then you will get 45 seconds to speak. So in these 45 seconds, you have to respond. So you basically have to answer this question in 45 seconds. Okay, so is that okay so far?
Yeah.
All right. Now, in your response, what you need to do. So at the beginning, you need to make sure that you have a short introduction in which you're just gonna tell me what your answer is, or what you think, or what you believe, or which option you prefer. So you can say something like, let's read this question. Do you prefer finding information by reading books or searching the internet? So at the beginning, you can tell me what your position is. So something like, I definitely believe that using the internet is way better to find information. So that's it. You're just telling me what you think. And then you have to tell me one reason, at least one reason. So something like, since, I don't know, since you get, you have access to a lot more information. That's it. So that's your argument, I'm sorry, your position and your reason. And also try to make up an example. So try to say something like, to illustrate your transition, and then you tell me, you make up something. You could give me a personal story, something like, when I was in college, I was taking this tech class, and I wouldn't find any information on books or any updated information on books. So I had to use the internet to find the technology information that I was looking for. And ever since, I prefer the internet. Or you could also give a general example, something like, if you are searching for updated information, perhaps on technology or new advances or anything that's new, then you will probably not find that information in books because they take time to update. So you will have to use the internet. So that's it. You basically need your introduction, your position, your reason, and then the example. The conclusion is not necessary. You don't have to do one. But of course, if you have extra time or if you don't know what to say, then you can do one. You can say something like, so that's why I believe that the internet is better. So that's why I think so. something like that, which is optional only if you have some extra time. Okay? So, you guys, is that okay?
Yes, it's okay.
Any questions?
Yes. For example, I understand that 45 seconds I talk about any question, position, argument, and example. This is the 45 seconds.
Yeah, 45.
Uh,
Try to do the first, like the position and the argument, try to do it as quick as possible so that you save time for the example, which is what usually takes more time. So you could try to organize it in like 5 to 6 seconds. You know, I definitely believe that this is better, or maybe even 8 if you want. The argument, try to make it in 10 to 15, and then leave some time to the example. Okay.
and something else or something additional, no?
Like what? What do you mean?
Other, any one topic or two topics?
I'm sorry, I don't really get it. So you mean like talking about the two options? What do you mean?
Mm,
You can say it in Spanish.
este de es lo que exactamente nos va a tomar o va a ser algún otro tema, o eso es lo que nos van a decir, o cualquier cosa nos preguntan y es al azar.
Okay, so yeah, it's completely random. They're gonna ask you about some topics like work or college life or lifestyle, or sometimes like the internet technology is very common, the environment. So it's very random. You don't know which question you're gonna get. So it depends, you know. So that's why we're gonna be practicing with different topics, different types of question. And of course, you just have to practice so that you can get used to the idea of how this works. But it's random.
Yeah, okay, it's okay.
All right, so now you're gonna give it a shot. I know it's gonna be your first try, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just wanna see how you're getting the hang of it. So this is the question for you. It goes, some people think they can achieve more when they work with other people, and others think they're more productive when they work alone. So what is your opinion, and explain why? So you got two options, working with other people or working alone. You gotta tell me which one you prefer and why. So now you will be given 15 seconds to prepare your response, think about it for a while, and then you will start speaking. So 15 seconds starting now. Okay, so you ready? You think you can give it a try? Hi there.
Hi.
Hi. Okay. So, since today's our sixth session, if I'm not wrong, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be practicing the last one, task 4. So remember task 4, in this task, basically you just have the lecture. So you just got to listen to it. And then you just have, well, you get 30 seconds to prepare and then 60 seconds to speak. Remember that in the lecture, you will be given, or you will have 2 subtopics, which is the most important part. So you just want to focus there. Sometimes you get some examples as well. So remember the structure of the template. At the beginning, you have a short intro, something like the lecture's about, and then the general topic, and then you move on as quickly as possible to the subtopic. So to start, the lecture describes, and then you get the first one, a little bit of explanation, and then the example, and then you move on to the second. So do you remember how this was, task 4?
Yes, I do.
All right. So let's. Okay. All right, so here goes the lecture.
Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Today I want to talk about seabirds. Now, seabirds hunt and eat fish, and, well, their food can be hard to find because their food source is spread out over a large expanse of water. So what seabirds have done is that over time they've made adaptations. They've developed special characteristics that help them find food. One adaptation
Excuse me,
involves the
can
length of the bird's
we...
wings. The albatross, for example, is a large
I'm
seabird
sorry?
that spends most of
Yes,
its
can we
life
start
flying over.
the audio again, please?
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
It was messed up, so I missed some of the information.
Okay, I'll start again.
Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Today I want to talk about seabirds. Now, seabirds hunt and eat fish because their food source is spread out over a large expanse of water. So what seabirds have done is that over time they've made adaptations. They've developed special characteristics that help them find food. Wings that it can hold perfectly still. It's able to fly without moving its wings up and down. These long wings allow it to glide or float on the wind, and this uses very little energy. This is important because, as I said, the albatross has to cover a huge expanse of ocean to locate food, sometimes up to 1,100 miles a day. Because of its long wings, it can glide along over the ocean, using little energy as it searches for food. Another important adaptation of many seabirds is an acute, highly developed sense of smell. Take the fulmar. Like the albatross, the fulmar needs to find food that's scattered far out over the ocean. But the fulmar has a rather unusual advantage. It has the nostrils in the beak, and these special tube-shaped nostrils help it to pick up the scent of food. Now, this highly developed sense of smell is especially important because the fulmar's main source of food, plankton, are tiny organisms that are hard to see, but they give off a very sharp, distinctive odor. So when fulmars are flying around food, they may not be able to see them, but they can find the plankton by smelling them, even from far away.
Using the examples of the albatross and the fulmar, explain 2 special adaptations that have developed to help seabirds find food.
So now you got 30 seconds to prepare your response. Okay. So please, you can start now.
The lecture is about seabirds and some examples of physical adaptation that these kind of birds developed in order to hunt prey. One kind of very important adaptation is wings. The professor illustrates this with the albatross. The albatross has developed very long wings in order to glide for very long distances and saving energy. The second adaptation is the sense of smell. This is illustrated with the fulmar. The fulmar has developed special shaped nostrils in order to smell plankton for very long distances.
All right, so great, perfect, David. I think that was really awesome. So you managed your time well. I like that you were able to identify what the subtopics and the examples were, because some people get confused with that. You know, they think that these subtopics are the examples of the animals, but they actually are the types of adaptations that we got. So well done. I could tell you, try to write maybe some transitions, or one adaptation is and the other one is, but tell me something like, furthermore, the other adaptation is, or first, the first one is, because remember that the e-rater is going to be looking for those type of transitions. So the more you have, the better. And careful with gerunds as well, you know, in order to save energy instead of in order to saving energy, right? So careful with those gerunds. And great. And actually, this was a hard one, to be honest, so we're good.
I love biology.
Yeah. You want to do another biology one?
No, maybe a harder one.
I think biology is the hardest one. So, but let's do something different. Let's do art. Okay.
To speak. To part of a lecture in an interior design class.
So we're talking about interior design, specifically the basic principles typically used in home and office decoration in the United States. Effective designs create a delicate balance between two things. You need unity, and you also need contrast, which is essentially a break in unity. Now, this might seem a little contradictory, but let me explain why we need both of these for an effective design. So for the first principle, we need unity in our design. Think of it as consistency. Well, an easy and very effective way to do this is by bringing together similar elements. A common example is by matching colors. You pick a color and use it for different parts of the room. Say you pick green, and then use a light shade of green for the walls and maybe a somewhat darker shade for the fabric on the sofa, and finally complement that with a matching green in the rug. When elements match, the room is unified and gives its residents a sense of order and comfort. Okay, but there is such a thing as too much unity. Remember, you need a balance of unity and contrast. If all is focused on unity, the result will be a boring room. So what do? Well, you apply the second basic principle of design, which is contrast. Contrast serves to disrupt or break up the unity in places, but in a careful, intentional way. Well, let's continue using color as an example. To create contrast, color contrast, you need to abruptly change your color scheme once in a while. Let's see. You could throw bright red cushions on your dark green sofa, for example. Contrast makes things stand out. The green will look even greener next to the red. So now your room is more interesting, not completely the same. But watch out. Too much contrast is also dangerous, just like too much sameness is. Too much contrast will make the room feel busy.
Using the points and examples from the lecture, explain what unity and contrast are and how they make interior design more effective.
Okay. So 30 seconds now. Okay. So off you go.
The lecture is about basic principles of interior design. The two basic principles are unity and contrast. If we talk about unity, we must mention that elements must match in order to look unified. The professor illustrates this with the concept of color. If we are using the color green in order to decorate a room, other elements of the room must have similar shades of green. The second element is contrast. Contrast means to break up unity in a very careful and intentional way. This will make green look greener by using red, for example. But remember, too much of one element makes a room boring or disgusting. Too much unity makes a room look boring, and too much contrast makes a room look messy.
Okay, so awesome, David. I think you were missing a bit of time, but that's okay, you know. At the beginning, try not to tell me what the two subtopics are. Like these ones are unity and contrast, because that takes some time. And don't forget your transitions. You know, you were missing time, but the thing that you said at the end is okay, you know, if you have time. But if not, then you know you already said all the important information, so it's fine.
Yeah, because my video got messed up, so I was calculating time by myself.
Oh,
Maybe it's my
I see.
internet connection, because the audio got messed up a little bit and I missed some of the information.
Yeah, maybe you're in error, because I think mine is working fine. Okay, today. So yeah, if you were calculating time yourself, I think that's actually really good, because you were there, you know, so you already know how much time you should be speaking. So I think that's good as well.
Thank you. So we're having a speaking section on Thursday and
Thursday, yeah. We'll
that's
have-
the last one, and
We'll have
I
the
should
last
be-
one next week.
yeah, and I should be next week.
Yeah, I mean, we have the 7th session this Thursday, and then we'll have the last one, the 8th one, next week.
Okay, so I must be scheduling TOEFL very soon.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, David. So I'll see you next session.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Karina.
Hi, Andrea. How are you?
Okay, so today we're going to be practicing task 4, the last one. So remember that in this one, you just have the lecture. You just got to listen to it. Then you will be given 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak and to answer the question, you know. Remember that in the lecture, you will have an introduction at the beginning, not that important, and then the subtopics, that's the most important part. Some examples as well, maybe accompanying the subtopics. And in your response, you gotta keep the same structure. So at the beginning, you need a short intro, the lecture's about this, then you move on as quickly as possible to the subtopics. So to start, the lecture talks about and the example, the professor goes on to explain the second one in the example. Okay, remember? All right, so now we'll do one. Okay, so here's the lecture.
You will have 20 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Today, I want to talk about seabirds. Now, seabirds hunt and eat fish. And, well, their food can be hard to find because their food source is spread out over a large expanse of water. So what seabirds have done is that over time they've made adaptations. They've developed special characteristics that help them find food. One adaptation involves the length of the bird's wings. The albatross, for example, is a large seabird that spends most of its life flying over ocean waters in search of food, fish to feed itself and to carry back to the nest for its chicks. Now, most birds flap their wings up and down when they fly, which uses up a lot of energy. But the albatross has these special long wings that can hold perfectly still. It's able to fly without moving its wings up and down. These long wings allow it to glide or float on the wind, and this uses very little energy. This is important because, as I said, the albatross has to cover a huge expanse of ocean to locate food, sometimes up to 1,100 miles a day. Because of its long wings, it can glide along over the ocean, using little energy as it searches for food. Another important adaptation of many seabirds is an acute, highly developed sense of smell. Take the fulmar. Like the albatross, the fulmar needs to find food that's scattered far out over the ocean. But the fulmar has a rather unusual advantage. It has tiny tubes inside the nose holes in its beak. And these special tube-shaped nostrils help it to pick up the scent of food. Now, this highly developed sense of smell is especially important because the fulmar's main source of food, plankton, are tiny organisms that are hard to see, but they give off a very sharp, distinctive odor. So when fulmars are flying around looking for food, they may not be able to see them, but they can find the plankton by smelling them, even from far away.
Using the examples of the albatross and the fulmar, explain two special adaptations that have developed to help seabirds find food.
Okay, 30 seconds to prepare now. Okay, so please, you can start now.
The lecture is about seabirds. There are fishes that hunt fishes and they have troubles to find their food. That's why they have developed special adaptations. The professor explains that the first one of these is the length of birds. Most of the birds flap up and down their wings. However, the birds with this special feature can save energy by floating their long wing. This is the case of the albatross that have to fly long distances in the ocean, but can save energy thanks to this feature. The second example is the highly developed sense of smell. The animals with this feature have tiny tubes inside their noses that help them to smell food even though it is deep in the ocean. A good example of this is the former, that has this developed sense of smell to catch plankton in the ocean.
Okay, so you know what? That was a really good response and it was great, but you were missing time. So I think the second example was missing. So you need to work on saving time.
Okay.
At the beginning, that's what you want to summarize. You said the lecture is about seabirds, which is this kind of fish, and they have trouble doing this and that. Just tell me the lecture is about, read the question, 2 types of adaptations that developed or that seabirds have developed to find food. So you can repeat that, or two adaptations that seabirds have to survive. And then you move on. First, the lecture talks about, or the professor talks about the wings and how the length of the wings, and then you tell me, for example, the albatross, and then, okay, so save time at the beginning.
Okay.
I like that you're using transitions, however, that kind of stuff, that's good. The e-rater is going to be looking for those words. And remember that fish is both plural and singular, right? So
Yes.
careful with that.
Okay.
All right, so just mainly look at the clock, don't forget to look at it, and save time at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay. Now let's do. Okay.
And 60 seconds to speak. To part of a lecture in an
Specifically, the basic principles typically used in home and office decoration in the United States. Effective designs create a delicate balance between two things. You need unity, and you also need contrast, which is essentially a break in unity. Now, this might seem a little contradictory, but let me explain why we need both of these for an effective design. So, for the first principle, we need unity in our design. And think of it as consistency. Well, an easy and very effective way to do this is by bringing together similar elements. A common example is by matching colors. You pick a color and use it for different parts of the room. Say you pick green, and then use a light shade of green for the walls and maybe a somewhat darker shade for the fabric on the sofa, and finally complement that with a matching green in the rug. When elements match, the room is unified and gives its residents a sense of order and comfort. Okay, but there is such a thing as too much unity. Remember, you need a balance of unity and contrast. If all you do is focus on unity, the result will be a boring room. So what do? Well, you apply the second basic principle of design, which is contrast. Contrast serves to disrupt or break up the unity in places, but in a careful, intentional way. Well, let's continue using color as an example. To create contrast, color contrast, you need to abruptly change your color scheme once in a while. Let's see. You could throw bright red cushions on your dark green sofa, for example. Contrast makes things stand out. The green will look even greener next to the red. So now your room is more interesting, not completely the same. But watch out. Too much contrast is also dangerous, just like too much sameness is. Too much contrast will make the room feel busy.
Using the points and examples from the lecture, explain what unity and contrast are and how they make interior design more effective.
Okay, 30 seconds. All right. So please, you can start now.
The lecture is about the principles of design. The professor explains unity. This is the consistency between the different elements in the design. The second principle is contrast. The professor states that this means a disruption in the unity, but in a careful way. She illustrates these two principles by giving the example of decoration for a room. You can add different shades of a color, for example, green, to achieve unity, having walls green and the sofa green, but you can contrast this color by adding a red cushion in the green sofa. So this will make the design look great.
Okay, so great. Well done, Corinne. I think that was really good. So I was worried. I think it was different. You organized it differently. So you were in like so topic, example, topic, example. You did two subtopics and then the examples. And you can do that when the examples are the same, which was the case. So great, well done. I think that's also a good strategy to save time or to say the most important thing at the beginning so that then if you don't have that much time, it will be okay. So great. I like that. It was different and I liked it. Try to add those some more transitions. You say the lecture is about, I love the way you said it at the beginning, the lecture is about the principles of interior design. And then say something like to start or first or to begin with, something like that. And then you tell me the first one. So, yeah, so, maybe just those transitions, but everything else perfect in this one. Well done.
Thanks, teacher. I have a question. I was wondering if in the real test I will be able to look at the timer. Is that on screen?
Yeah, you will. You will.
Okay.
It's not gonna be like this one. I think you just have the numbers there, but you will have the timer there, so you can manage your time.
Okay.
Okay. Any other question?
Yes. In the day of the exam, it is am I allowed to bring the templates?
Nope. You
Okay.
can. So yeah, you try to memorize them. And what you can do is write them down before the test, or during the test, you can also write it down. So when you're listening to the instructions, you can try to write it down so that you can help, so that can help you out. But also always try to, memorize.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So then I'll see you next session.
Thank you, Andrea. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Con Grammarly puedes escribir en inglés rápido y confiadamente. Controla tus correos.
Speak.
How you doing?
Hi.
Okay, so today we're gonna be practicing, actually, yeah, we're missing one session, right? So we gotta practice task 3 first, and then we'll practice task 4. So yeah, I'm forgetting. Or, okay, so yeah. Or would you prefer to practice task 4 and then task 3?
I would prefer task 4 because
Okay.
it was kind of difficult for me.
All right. So then task 4, you know how it is. You get the lecture, just the lecture, and then you will be given 30 seconds to prepare, 60 to speak. Remember that in the lecture, you got a short intro at the beginning, not that important, and then the 2 subtopics, that's the most important part. You got also some examples accompanying the subtopics, and you gotta keep the same structure in your response. So you got a short intro, the lecture's about, and then you got to you gotta focus on the subtopics. So to start, the lecture talks about the first term, the example, and then you move on to the second one, right? So you remember? All good?
Oh, good.
Okay. So let's practice it. All right. So here's the lecture. Take some notes.
Listen to part of a lecture in a biology class.
Talk about seabirds. Now, seabirds hunt and eat fish, and, well, they can be hard to find because their food source is spread out over a large expanse of water. So what seabirds have done is that over time they've made adaptations. They've developed special characteristics that help them find food. One adaptation involves the length of the bird's wings. The albatross, for example, is a large seabird that spends most of its life flying over ocean waters in search of food, fish to feed itself, and to carry back to the nest for its chicks. Now, most birds flap their wings up and down when they fly, which uses up a lot of energy. But the albatross has these special long wings that it can hold perfectly still. It's able to fly without moving its wings up and down. These long wings allow it to glide or float on the wind, and this uses very little energy. This is important because, as I said, the albatross has to cover a huge expanse of ocean to locate food, sometimes up to 1,100 miles a day. Because of its long wings, it can glide along over the ocean, using little energy as it searches for food. Another important adaptation of many seabirds is an acute, highly developed sense of smell. Take the fulmar. Like the albatross, the fulmar needs to find food that's scattered far out over the ocean. But the fulmar has a rather unusual advantage. It has tiny tubes inside the nose holes in its beak, and these special tube-shaped nostrils help it to pick up the scent of food. Now, this highly developed sense of smell is especially important because the fulmar's main source of food, plankton, are tiny organisms that are hard to see, but they give off a very sharp, distinctive odor. So when fulmars are flying around looking for food, they may not be able to see them, but they can find them by smelling them, even from far away.
Using the examples of the albatross and the fulmar, explain 2 special adaptations that have developed to help seabirds find food.
Okay. So now you get 30 seconds to prepare your response. Okay. So please, you can start now.
The listening is about how seabirds have developed adaptations to find food. After introducing the topic, the professor features 2 examples. To start, the lecturer describes the albatross, which have developed long wings that allow them to float for long distances in order to consume less energy to search for food and cover a high span of ocean area. Then, the professor also explains how plumbers have developed a sense of smell. This bird has tiny tubes in its beaks that help them scent the food. For example, to illustrate this, she mentions that this bird in particular feeds out of plankton, which is really hard to see but has a characteristic smell that is sent by this adaptation.
Okay, great, nice. So I like how you're managing your time. That's really good. Okay, so I think everything was perfect. The only thing I could say is careful with identifying the subtopics. I mean, differentiating the subtopics from the examples. So when you got biology, usually, especially when you got types of adaptations, which is very common, you got the types of adaptations as subtopics, and the details or the examples are the animals that they mentioned. So in this case, the first subtopic was how some birds, like in general, have different wings. And then the example was the albatross. The second one was how birds have developed a very acute sense of smell. And then the example was the fulmar. So careful with that, it's gotta be in that way. So other than that, I think, everything's good. So just careful, especially when we got these biology topics, and we'll be good.
Okay.
Okay. So you want to do another biology one?
Maybe something that is history or something like that, because I believe I'm really bad at those topics.
Okay. So the thing is, history is not that common. So actually, you won't have any history.
Okay.
These practice sets that we have here, those are actual TOEFL practice sets. So these are questions that have been in TOEFL tests. So of course, when you practice with in other websites, you will find history and literature maybe, but that's not how the official TOEFL is, So that's why it's better to practice with. Sometimes you got art though. So maybe we can do one art.
Okay. Yes, maybe something that is not like science, because I feel like I'm really comfortable talking about science, but when I have to talk about something like art, I lose words and everything.
Really? Wow. Okay. So actually, I thought, science was the hardest one, but we can do an art one. So let me. Okay. All right. Okay, so here's the lecture.
"60 seconds to speak. To part of a lecture in an interior design class.
So we're talking about interior design, specifically the basic principles typically used in home and office in the United States. This create a delicate balance between things. You need unity, and you also need contrast, which is essentially a break in unity. Now, this might seem a little contradictory, but
I have some trouble with the audio. It was cut off.
Okay, that's weird. So is it your internet maybe?
I don't know.
You want me to play it again? You let me know if it's better now.
Yes, I'm gonna change the Wi-Fi. Just a
Okay.
sec. Okay, I it was my internet connection.
Okay, so yeah, all right.
Yes, because I just closed it.
Okay, let's listen in. Okay.
Lecture in an interior design class.
So we're talking about interior design. Specifically the basic principles typically used in home and office decoration in the United States. Effective designs create a delicate balance between two things. You need unity and you also need contrast, which is essentially a break in unity. This might seem a little contradictory, but let me explain why we need both of these for an effective design. So for the first principle, we need unity in our design. Think of it as consistency. Well, an easy and very effective way to do this is by bringing together similar elements. A common example is by matching colors. You pick a color and use it for different parts of the room. Say you pick green, and then use a light shade of green for the walls and maybe a somewhat darker shade for the fabric on the sofa, and finally complement that with a matching green in the rug. When elements match, the room is unified and gives its residents a sense of order and comfort. Okay, but there is such a thing as too much unity. Remember, you need a balance of unity and contrast. If all you do is focus on unity, the result will be a boring room. So what do? Well, you apply the second basic principle of design, which is contrast. Contrast serves to disrupt or break up the unity in places, but in a careful, intentional way. Well, let's continue using color as an example. To create contrast, color contrast, you need to abruptly change your color scheme once in a while. Let's see, you could throw bright red cushions on your dark green sofa, for example. Contrast makes things stand out. The green will look even greener next to the red. So now your room is more interesting, not completely the same. But watch out, too much contrast is also dangerous, just like much sameness is. Too much contrast will make the room feel busy.
Using the points and examples from the lecture, explain what unity and contrast are and how they make interior design more effective.
So 30 seconds. Okay. So please start speaking now.
The listening is about the basic principles of interior design and how the balance of these principles help in an effective design. To start, the lecturer describes unity, which is also known as consistency, and it can be achieved by using similar elements. For instance, the lecturer explains that matching colors is really helpful to achieve unity using the same type of shades. But it is also important to consider that this order and comfort that is transmitted needs to be break up by using contrast. That is the second term explained by the professor. To illustrate this, she mentioned, for example, that changing the color schemes would help to stand out a part of the design. To illustrate this, she mentioned, for example, the use of red cushions on a sofa, making the bright color stand out. And also, it is important to find the perfect balance between these two principles to achieve an effective design.
Okay, so now it's great. I think that's really- So the only thing is that you were missing some time, you know, you went over. But that's okay because kind of, I mean, what you were saying at the end was kind of extra, you know, so you got the most important, the most relevant information covered. So I think that's okay. This time you got the subtopics and the examples as well. You got the template. So I think everything was great. Grammar, remember, you know, you said, for instance, needs to be break up. So remember, needs to be broken up, right? The passive voice. Careful with that. And yeah, you know, if you want to save time, always at the beginning, try to cut it, I mean, make it as quick as possible, that intro, and that will help you save time for the end. And I think that was good as well, because I like the fact that you eliminated this part, which is something that you can for sure do, like after introducing the topic. So you went right, you know, the lectures about interior design or the basic principles of interior design and how they need to be balanced to create an effective design. I don't know. So that's good. You can skip this part so that you have time at the end. So the lectures about the principles of interior design. To start the lecture, you discuss unity, which is, so that's good. Okay, so nothing to say really, no more comments. I like that you also got like good vocabulary, even if it's art, like color scheme or those kind of words. So that's gonna help if you get one of these topics. So
Okay.
Any questions?
No, I don't think so. I get a bit nervous sometimes, so I need
Really?
to manage that in the exam.
But you know what? I wouldn't tell. I mean, I didn't even notice. You don't seem nervous at all, so it doesn't show us. So it's, you know, it's normal. It's okay. But I wouldn't say that's a problem. At least it's not, you know, noticeable in your response. So it's okay.
Okay.
So yeah, but practicing is the main thing to get that out. Okay then. So then I'll see you next session on Thursday.
Okay.